Alright, so we're working on the gears here for that 4-speed transmission, and usually this first and second gear cluster here is a press fit onto the main shaft. We have a 3/1000ths difference here, and we feel like that's too much to just press on. So we're going to heat up the gear. We're going to put this in the freezer and get it cold, and then we're going to attempt to slide it together and see what happens. Because I just feel like there's too much, like I said, there's too much of a difference here to slide on. Yeah, so I mean,
solid.
So anyway, stay tuned as we work on this here and see what happens. Alright, so we got the oven set at 300 degrees. That won't mess with the hardening and the tempering of the gear. So any hotter would probably mess with that. So we're going to stick around this degrees. And then we're going to put the shaft in the freezer and let it sit there for a little while. So stay tuned. Alright, so we got the gear in there. It's going to be about 30 minutes and it'll be the right temperature. And then we're going to pull it out and try to push it on and tap it on to the main shaft. So stay tuned. Alright, so we got a block of wood here, and then we're going to use this little chunk of pipe here and hold it like this. The gear sits on here just about perfect, and then we'll be able to slide the main shaft on, and then we'll tap the main shaft onto the gear. If we have to. Maybe it might slide right on with the shaft being cold and the gear being about 300 degrees. So this is my mom's table, so I'm gonna have to be careful. So I got this all pieces of wood here and stuff. So alright, stay tuned. Alright, so we're gonna grab the gear now. It's ready. Actually, alright. Alright, so hold it here. You can grab the main shaft. It's been in the freezer for about 30 minutes as well, and we're going to see if it slides right in here. Nope, it's not going in. We're going to have to figure.
Oh yeah, it did.
Oh, it's in. It did work. So now we just got to wait. Yeah, it's in.
Yeah, it did.
So there's enough room for the bearing now and stuff.
Okay.
It was hard to tell because it was such a hard fit the first time, but this trick worked. So now we just gotta wait for it to cool down together.
It's already.
And then we'll be, when it's totally room temperature again, we'll be able to go forward on this. So that worked out pretty good. Sweet. All right, here we are. We're back at the shop now. I'm glad that we did it the way we did because a lot of people, they just put like a vise and beat on it until it goes in. That's kind of bad, I think, because you end up damaging stuff, like scratching it and causing stuff to mushroom, and I don't know. It just worked out really slick, as you can see before in the previous segment there. It just like slid right together, and we didn't even know that it actually went together as good as it did. So seeing there's the bearing we got to get to sit there, and then it gets held on here with a nut and stuff. So anyways, so we'll stay tuned as we work on this. Alright, so that's the thrust washer. End up being 0.062 thickness, and it's right on. And then we'll end up putting the snap ring on there, or retaining ring. says right in the book that every time you mess with this stuff, you're supposed to put a new snap ring on. So this is all fresh. So I mean,
And they're tough to put on.
yeah, they're tough to put on. That's good because then they will stay there when they fall in their groove.
Yes, they go.
All right, so we'll mess with this for a little bit here, and then we'll show you what it looks like when it's in its place. So stay tuned. You'll hear it click in as soon as it goes in. There it is. All right, next I'm gonna move on to the next item of business here. All right, so what we did was we moved it to where it sits on one of the flats for the thrust washer. I got another thrust washer here, but we just didn't want the gap in the retaining ring to be stuck on one of these lands right here, and then it wouldn't engage very well. But that's what the thrust washer looks like. So then we have
Put it right here.
we put the gap right there on the little part hanging out right there. Yep, right there. So yeah, I feel good about that, I think. So yeah, because otherwise we would have had it like partially on one of them raised areas right here in the splines. So right, so we're gonna get ready to put on the fourth gear, I believe. So stay tuned. All right, so when you put this thrust washer in here, you gotta make sure you do your end plate check. You want to have you want it to be like between, the book says it needs to be between 4 thousandths to 17 thousandths, and with the stock dimension thrust washer being a 0.62 ends up putting us where we were at 15. So we're within the window of that. And it would have been loose if we went with 14. So we stuck with 15. So it's important. So stay tuned. All right, so we're working on this main shaft here, sub-assembly. Original shift dogs or shift clutches said high on one side. This is the Andrews one, of course, so it doesn't say high on it anywhere, but the writing is on the side that it would say high. And according to the book here, the original book here, it says that always install a new gear lock ring and make sure it is properly seated into the groove. Bevel side of the main shaft shifter clutch is stamped high. Make sure this side faces the main drive gear. Main drive gear is fourth gear, of course. This. So we're going to make sure that this, where it has the writing, which would be considered high, goes towards this part like that. So it goes on like this. So when you engage in the gears, this all rotates. It'll slide. These little tapered edges here will slide up against it like that, and then the shift fork will lock it into the gear, just like that. So, all right. All right, so this is kind of what the main shaft assembly looks like when it's all together. This is going to be an easier way of looking at it right here outside the transmission, because unfortunately I cannot put it in the transmission like this because of the end here, the size. the gear would never fit through there. So, of course, fourth gear is going to come off. And we'll set it off to the side. That has to be installed in here first. So we'll put all that together and get it inside here and get it somewhat snugged up in the back here, along with the seal and everything. So that's going to be the first part of setting this thing up as we get ready to go forward. Then we got to take third gear back off. So that's why I kind of wanted to show you all this stuff on the outside here, because it's going to be hard to reference that and show you all that stuff when it's inside there. So the shift clutch here, or the dog, whatever term you want to use, has come off. And then we'll have to take off third gear, because this is even too big still before it can even go inside here. So I'll just, you see there, it won't go past at all. But the first gear and second gear cluster will. So what we'll do is we'll take this off, slide it in, then put the gear back on about halfway through, then the thrust washer, and then we'll bring the retaining ring all the way in and orientate it and try to set it up as much as possible just like it is now, because that's kind of how I want it to look in there. So that's kind of why we made it out, put it together outside like this. So stay tuned for that coming up here. That's why they suggest that you replace these retaining rings every time you work on it, because you gotta practically destroy it to take it out when it's inside the case. And it's pretty much easy to pop in and out right now. Alright, so just remove this retainer here from in here. So anyways, it's kind of a struggle, but it was all for our visual on how the main shaft looks when it's all assembled, because it's going to be really hard to see when it's inside, like I mentioned before. So now we're just going to pull this off here, and the thrust washer's in there. Set it off to the side. What we're going to do is get ready to put the bearing retainer and ball bearing on this end here, so we can put it in the case. So that's this stuff here in the front, down here. The retainer here is 35100-36, and then 9020 bearing. And it's easier to do it now than it is when it's in the case. So anyway, stay tuned. Alright, so we're getting ready to start preparing to put the bearing on the main shaft. And anyways, this is kind of the bearing that comes with a lot of the kits out there. It's a sealed bearing. Sealed bearings are pretty awesome, except for in their own application or in kind of in certain areas on, you know, when they get used in certain spots. But I don't really think that, and there's a lot of people out there that probably think the same way, but I don't really think that a sealed bearing should be inside of a transmission. And this is kind of my personal take on it, and I think I agree. Some other people would agree, or I agree with other people as well. But there's grease in here, yes, and it's sealed in there so it never leaves, and it's good for high RPMs and all that stuff. The problem with it is that when that grease breaks down, you can't put more in, and with as much pressure and stuff that's going on in this transmission, I just feel that we need to probably put the original style looking shielded bearing in instead. This is like the original Harley like ones. Now it's not sealed, but what the benefit of running this instead of the sealed bearing is the fact that when you change the oil in the transmission, you're putting new oil in this bearing every time. And that's something you can't do with the sealed bearing. So, and these bearings have been kind of like this for like ever with Harley transmissions. So I'm not sure what's going on with the sealed bearing coming around now and stuff. We're seeing a lot of sealed bearings in like axles and stuff like that. Well, that's great there and everything, but just don't think that I'm going to put a sealed bearing in my transmission. Alright, so here's the ball bearing for the main shaft. This is in the bearing retainer right now. It's mainly just kind of a press fit. You slide it in a little bit, and anyways, It's these two parts here, the 35100-36 and the 9020 shielded bearing. So, yeah. So anyways, we're going to get ready to put this on the main shaft now. So, stay tuned here. Alright, so the bearing we ended up going with here was a SKF bearing, and it's made in France. And it's a good quality bearing. SKF's a good brand. Otherwise, there were other options were like a China bearing and stuff, and I just didn't want to go that route. So, it's the bearing inside here is the 9020 Harley part number, and it also has the bearing part number on here as well. We got 6305-2Z, and otherwise you'll see ZZ, and that means it just means the shields on the side. The letters do on the back. 2Z means two shields on both sides, and ZZ means the same thing if you see them. So the box kind of look like this here. So as long as you find that part number, you'll be able to find a replacement. So anyway, get ready to put this on the main shaft now. So with putting this bearing on, it goes like this. This collar right here goes to the outside. These are kind of usually like a slight press fit, and they slide in there. But I think what will happen to my advantage here is if I maybe put this in the freezer and hopefully this thing can shrink, kind of like it did when we were putting this gear on. Because I don't want to beat on the thing, and I don't want to just put it on there and try to use the threads to pull it on, if I could ever get it down that far. So I don't really want to beat it on there, like a lot of people do. It just doesn't seem right to me, and a lot of people agree with me on that. And so, anyways, and I agree with other people that do the same kind of thing. So let's just see what happens here. So I'm gonna put this in the freezer for a little while. Maybe it'll shrink a little bit, and then maybe I'll use like a heat gun or something on this, or just kind of just keep it room temperature. Maybe it'll just slide on that way. So let's see. So stay tuned here. Alright, so this bearing, when it's on the shaft, the whole shaft just goes in, and this just kind of like slides right in, as long as you have it nice and square. Not have to really beat on it or nothing. It slides right in. So we'll see how well that goes when we have it on the shaft. But just wanted to kind of show how this went together here before we just start throwing it together, you know. So stay tuned here. So the main shaft's in the freezer for right now anyway, and I don't really want to get this bearing too extremely hot, but might warm it up a little bit warmer than room temperature, but not much more. And then, anyways, so we'll try to slide it on. Hopefully this works. So stay tuned here. Alright, this is out of the freezer. It's pretty cold, and this is warmer than room temperature. So let's see if we can get the slide on there without having to beat it on. There we go, perfect. This is exciting. A lot of people bang on these things and dent them all in and crap, but not this guy. Stay tuned here. Alright, so then we're going to put the lock tab in here. These little points here. Engage the spline holes there. So put that down like that. And then, actually I think I want to bend these tabs up a little bit, otherwise I'm going to have a heck of a time getting there. So hold on a second here. And then the nut, of course, goes down. So yeah, just hold on here. We'll bend these a little bit so we can get on them better. There we go. And then we run this nut down. There we go. Then what we'll do is we'll torque this down and lock them tabs up. So stay tuned here. Alright, so we're going to tighten this end nut here that holds the bearing on, and a vise. They say use soft jaws. These are aluminum plates here we're going to use. And that should be fine. Holding it tight in there. Alright. Alright, so now we tighten it down to 50 to 60 foot-pounds. So we're gonna do it for 60. Alright. We're gonna check it. Yep, there we go, we're good. Alright. Well, next we put on the other gears, but we're not gonna do that till later, so when it's in the case. Alright, so the aluminum plates worked pretty well. That's pretty much my version of the soft jaw thing. So anyways, we're looking for a tab that lines up now, and it's this one right here. So then we'll be able to grab it with the channel locks, because these are already pre-bent up, so they were easier to get to, because a lot of the times people try to dig at that with a screwdriver, and then they end up marring up and damaging that shield right there. Well, we're not gonna do that with this one, so as much as we can. So what we'll do is we'll get on there with a flat screwdriver and maybe try to pry it up a little bit, but not using the shield as something to press against.
Catch
that. Yeah, we should be able to get on there with the lip there. And we're using the outside of the race here to lift it up a little bit more. Now we can get on good with the channel locks and bend it the rest of the way. And what this does is just locks that nut from turning. And then we got 3 to choose from, because they all will line up differently, and this is the only one that lines up right now. There we go. Alright, now we're ready to put it in the case. Alright, so we're getting ready to put the main shaft in here into the 4th gear. So what we got here, we're going to put in some assembly lube inside here and get this bushing all nice and lubed up. Put a big old gob of it in there and then move it around with a finger or something. And then we're going to lube that seal, and then transmission oil, gear oil. It'll replace this eventually after it's running, so that way, this way, there's not no cold starts on these bushings with being dry and stuff. That's a no-go. You don't want to leave stuff dry for initial startups. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, we got laid out how we got to put it in here. So we got the shifter clutch, shifter dog, whatever slang you want to call it, and the letters are towards 4th gear, like I said earlier. And if this was the original Harley one, it would say high. So this is Andrew's one, so the letters are towards 4th gear. Our retaining ring, our thrust washer, our 3rd gear, and the main shaft. So here we go.
We want to lube it.
Yeah, we're gonna want to lube that too.
Slide this on here. Move it around.
All right. A thrust washer. So we did all of our measurements earlier in this first part of this segment. So now we can just go ahead and put this thing together. I think you gotta get on your side of that third
Yeah,
gear.
it's gotta be on the
On
other
that
side of that
reverse.
boss.
Yeah, the reverse boss.
Oh, see, don't go in.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's more better. Now we gotta fight with this.
Okay, so we're gonna be fighting with putting this snap ring on.
And we gotta have enough room to where we can work on it. There we go.
Alright, well, stay tuned while we fight with this and get it closer, and then we'll show you what it looks like then. But that's pretty much what you gotta do.
Now we gotta walk this around. And please stay in place.
Alright, we're getting it up over there. Yeah, hold it while it, otherwise it's gonna come back off.
Yep,
There we go. There it goes.
there it goes.
Yeah, there it's on there now. Now we got it on the splines, so now we just gotta find our sweet spot where we want it at.
We just gotta walk it in gently. We don't want to bend it. I can push this into the ways with my fingers.
Right.
Get out of there. There it goes. And there that goes again. Okay.
Now we're gonna check it.
Screwdriver. I want that. There we go.
Alright, so we orientated how we wanted earlier in the video, you saw.
I want it over one of them splines.
Yeah, over one of them splines.
Is it over it?
It looks like it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, there it is.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
Now, of course, it doesn't feel like there's any play because we added assembly lube.
Yeah.
But
So
it's you know.
Right. And it's how you check it with the play and all that stuff is when it's dry anyway, so.
Okay, now
All right.
I gotta
Now we gotta
Oh gosh, this is almost gone already.
so we just
Already in.
pull it in there, and there he is, fourth gear, and main shaft is all assembled here.
Now it's high gear or third gear.
Awesome. All right. Stay tuned. We'll tighten up. We'll put on the plate, and we'll tighten this end up here. All right. So this bearing retainer slid right in with a little bit of, you know, elbow grease and elbow strength, and then just slid right in. We didn't need to bang on it like some people do, like to pound on it and end up damaging stuff. So really fortunate this went right in. This was a nice race. This was an OEM old Harley one from the 70s. So of course it fit right in. Hard to find that original stuff like that. So now we're going to put this trap door plate on. And then we'll start threading them screws in. And then there's a little retainer here that goes in the top. So stay tuned, and we'll get this all set up, and we'll start showing some more of this. All right, so they're all in there. Now we just gotta, this is the oil deflector up here, and it says in the book to tighten these things securely. So
Hold this.
you know, within reason.
What I want to do is keep this from turning up against the case.
Okay. All right. So we just do a cross pattern here and tighten them down. All right. Gonna tighten the rest of these down.
Yeah, I think I already did.
Oh, you're not doing a cross pattern?
I already tightened them.
Okay. Yeah, now we're just tight. Make sure they're tight. All right, cool. Good. All right, now we're just put the gear on and stuff, and so stay tuned here. It's all nice and smooth. And that bearing didn't make noise when we were spinning it, which is nice too. Awesome. All right, stay tuned. All right, so with all this tightened down, and this pretty much ends the main shaft segment here. So next step is putting in the countershaft. We're gonna go in the countershaft next, so we're gonna take the sprocket off. It can, you know, because the fourth gear will stay here now with this being in. So we'll take the sprocket off so we can put the countershaft in, and then we'll go from there. So stay tuned here. We'll be moving on to the countershaft segment. Alright, so here's the countershaft stuff. This is the gear cluster for the countershaft. We need to install the speedometer gear, drive gear here. It goes on here, right here. It's kind of a slight interference fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our trick and see if it works here again. We're going to freeze this gear cluster and either heat this or leave it room temperature and see if we can slide it on. And then we'll go from there. And then there's a couple bushings that go on these two gears, and we got them in the freezer right now, shrinking a little bit so we can just slide them in without having to beat them in, and hopefully we don't have to do no honing on them at all. So stay tuned here, get this gear installed. Alright, we tapped a couple times with this deadbolt hammer and it went right in. Alright, now we're going to put this one in. There we go. Make sure it's centered. There we go. We're getting ready to install this gear here onto the countershaft, the gear cluster. So we're going to heat this up. Go grab the countershaft gear cluster in a minute here. It's in the freezer. So stay tuned here. Pretty much got on there before I could push record. So he's finishing it up here. Getting it nice and centered in there. Because we want it to run right where it needs to be. And I believe that's why it's centered like that.
All right. Yeah, I think it's okay.
All right, looks good.
Yeah, it's okay
All
to
right.
me, I think.
Alright, cool. Well, stay tuned here. Alright, so the inside here, there's a groove. You can see it. It gets the retaining ring. And then what we'll do is we'll put that in. And then it gets a thrust washer. Then we work on putting the bearings in. That's the same thing for both sides here. So we'll do one side at a time, of course, and flip it over. So there's a good, this might take a couple times to do, but maybe we'll get it right away. But because there's a chance these bearings could fall over and inside there if we don't do this quite right. So we're gonna put the sharp side to the inside, right?
Yep. I'm going to turn this around.
All right, so stay tuned here.
Okay, rounded edge up. Thrust is away.
We gotta make sure this engages into that groove completely.
We're a ways away yet. Oops. Really? Problem with it is my tool gets fat.
Yeah.
There it is.
There we go. Then we put the thrust washer in there. Then we're gonna lube it first, of course, but then we can also use that to help make sure that retaining ring is engaged. So yeah, and that helps hold the bearings still too. All right. There we go. Now we'll start putting the bearings in here. We go one at a time here. So
22.
yeah, 22 total on each side. So stay tuned here while I struggle with this, and we'll come back and they'll be all ready to go. Alright, so this is all new components, so of course these are all standard bearings. And we didn't have to worry about really doing any fitting, so as long as everything's machined properly.
Yeah, and then you gotta move them a little bit because you gotta get your finger out of there.
Yeah, make sure they're nice and lubed. This is the side that gets the side here we started with is the side that gets the shimming washer. So that's what that set looks like. Find the right one that fits with the right clearance here. We'll be going over that in a minute. So,
And this fits.
and the countershaft fits.
Real nice.
All right, cool. Now we can flip it over and do the other side. We're getting sharp edge in and down for the situation here with the rounded outward. Making sure that it's fully engaged into that groove.
And it is.
Looks like it. Next we put another one of these thrust washers in there.
I don't think we can put too much grease in it. The excess will just move out.
Yeah, so we put enough in there to maintain them to hold their holding position, and then the rest will just get dissipated by the oil from the transmission anyway. This side gets 22 as also.
And we don't have any extras.
Yeah, yep, just enough. So if there's something wrong where they were shorted, or we might have extra. I'm not sure exactly how they counted, so I didn't count them. Just bought the bag of full set for the whole transmission. So. But we've been keeping track and knowing that we were getting them all in. So if we end up with one or two, we're not going to be like worried about it.
Greasy. Well, you might have had an extra.
Yeah, they gave us an extra one. Two extra ones. If we weren't paying attention, we'd be like, what the heck? So, well, all right. Next, we put on another retaining washer. We're going to check it with the countershaft, of course, first. There we go. Nice. Alright, then there's this retaining washer, or this thrust washer here. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, so we're checking end plate here on this countershaft.
Now we're gonna.
So we just gotta start in this pile of thickness washers here and find our fit.
What's it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be, according to this book here, it says gear end play is 0.008 to 0.012.
12.
Yeah, 12 thousandths. So 8 thousandths to 12
So
thousandths.
what we're going to do is we're going to find one that barely fits and then go 12 under or something like that. This one barely fits. Just a smidgen of play. I want to get one that don't go. And it might be this one. I can't get this one to go.
This one's not going in. All right.
Okay, there it is. It's zero clearance.
Okay, so 0 clearance right now with this one. So now we're going to measure it and subtract
Well, we're going to see what the difference is.
between, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we'll figure out the difference between these two.
Okay, so this one is 982. You moved them. So which
No.
one was the first one?
That one was.
982. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 thousandths. What's the minimum?
8.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
9 thousandths?
9 thousandths.
Well,
With
you
the
probably-
first one. So all we need is the first one. So we'll get rid of all the rest of these. We don't need any of them.
Yeah, let's get them out of the way so they don't confuse us, but
This is it.
all right. Found that out. We're going to go with that one there. It was 9 thousandths clearance. That's what we'll end up with. All right, so now we're going to finish building this cluster for this cluster gear here for the countershaft. So stay tuned here. Once we found out what we needed to find out here, we can move on. All right, so this is real similar to installing like the main shaft was. We install the gear over the bushing here, and then we install this thrust washer, and then it gets a retaining ring as well.
Greasing it to make sure that
Yeah,
it doesn't have a dry start.
right.
After
Pre-lube. Yeah, pre-lube it.
There it is.
There we go.
Same thing with
Yep,
this.
thrust washer gets lubed. Lube everything. Easy to say that. And then retaining ring.
This one?
Yeah.
Hold it there.
Yep. There we go.
Not quite. There it is.
There we go. Installed that retaining ring just like that, and
There,
then
it's almost on our deal.
and then we just line it up where we want it. All right, perfect. All right, next we put on the shifter clutch.
And we're going to point this. We're going to point the words to fourth gear, just like we did the other one. It doesn't really say it matters, but if you're going to do with one, might as well do it both. So this goes in like this. Okay, this goes in like this because the speedometer gear is here and this is here. So this is here. So we're going to put
the letters. There's some letters on it.
this way.
In towards fourth gear.
Yep. Put it that way, just because. Now.
And then another thrust washer. And then our first gear.
Make sure dogs are in.
Yep, those go towards the inside.
Just like that.
There it is. Alright, so then next we'll set this in there and we'll slide the main shaft through. We'll line this up through it.
Main shaft.
Or, yeah, I say main shaft. I mean counter shaft.
Set that up there. I want this.
All right. Put that in there.
Should fit. Ooh, went too far. Yep, it went too far. I gotta be more careful with it.
All right, stay tuned. All right, we took it back out and we got that thing that shim lined up in there. You got the shaft in all the way. Everything seems to function properly. And then, yeah, so now we're gonna put this O-ring on here and then push it around the rest of the way, and then we'll be able to start tightening up this end here. So stay tuned. All right, so we're putting in this washer that has a built-in tab, which kind of like locks into the groove here.
I think that goes over here.
Yeah, just like that. And then whenever, if it rotates, it'll bang into this one and lock it. Yep, see, like that. That way it doesn't come loose or rotate. Next we put on the tabbed lock, another tabbed lock washer here. This one we had to fold onto the flats. And then the nut. So stay tuned and we'll get ready to torque this down. Alright, so in the manual it says, the old manual it says, and even this newer one I have over here, it says to tighten this nut down securely. So we're going to go with some blue Loctite, and then what we'll end up doing is probably torque it down to about 50 foot-pounds. Because this one here we torqued it down to 60. And yeah, so that sounds secure, I think. And then what we'll do is we'll secure it again with the lock tab when we pull it up onto it. So stay tuned here. Alright, so I got the blue Loctite on there. And we'll set that in there. Alright, so next we'll torque the thing down.
Yeah, we gotta set this, let's pick this up.
Set on the side?
Yeah. So I can then hold it. And
All right.
I can torque it.
All right, it didn't click, but it's secure. It's tight. This is aluminum, so it's secure. Now we got it secured with Loctite, and then we'll fold this tab up over here. This is the one that lines up the best with this flat. We might even fold this one too because it lines up good too. And who knows, we might be able to do all three of these. So stay tuned here. That one looks pretty good.
How many more you want?
I don't know. What do you think of that one? I mean, one will do it.
I think it's fine.
All right, then maybe we can. Hopefully, we never have to tear this apart, but we got our tab we can use. So everything looks nice in there. I checked the shifter forks here, and they all engage good and everything.
Yep.
So
the next segment will be timing.
Yeah, putting the shifter fork assembly in here. So.
And we got to put this cover on and seal it.
Yeah, we could probably do that right now.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Stay tuned. Alright, so this is the countershaft cover. Originally, for my year range, this would have been Parkerized, which this is. A lot of the reproduction transmissions actually don't really have this style of thing. They look different, but this is kind of how it has to be for this year, for it to look right. So then Parkerized screws with the slot. A lot of the transmissions out there have Phillips, which didn't come out till after World War II. And then lock washer held on. Of course, a gasket. Goes this way.
This way.
Yeah, because it's got a recessed area inside of it for the countershaft sticks out a little bit.
We're gonna put some sealer on it.
Yeah, I guess we could put some sealer on it. What we'll do is we'll clean this off really good, make sure there's no grease here.
We could put some of that 510 stuff.
Yeah, we'll put like that Loctite 510 stuff on it. We won't put nothing too crazy on here. We use this Loctite, helps make a gasket seal. So installing this on here. There we go. Oops. Right. Just good and tight here. Securely, like the manual says. No torque spec, of course. It's going to be hard to do that anyway with a slotted screw this small.
That
so
wimpy screws.
yeah, you just end up destroying stuff. So, nice. All right. We're going to test this speedometer gear, make sure it's
It's turning.
Yeah, it's engaged. It's turning when you rotate. This is where it sits. Yeah, it's working. So we'll install this now. Why not, I guess. So, yeah, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put that gasket maker on this. And then, original finish of this was cadmium. And this is original Harley one, I believe, when I bought it. It was new in the box. NOS stuff. And then a gasket there, and then the screw that was held in, they held it in was a 030 Harley part number, and it was a Philister head, Parkerized, slotted screw with a lock washer. 0254 old part number lock washer. So that's the correct finish for all that. So I kind of want to make it look accurate. So stay tuned here. Right.
We don't want it to leak.
Yeah, we don't want this to leak.
Otherwise it'd be just oozy.
Yeah, oozy everywhere and make everything all ridiculous when it don't need to be, you know.
Yep, see it squeezing out.
Yeah, it's squeezing out. There we go. I got it tight. You want to check it? I think it's alright. Get that all wiped off. Alright. Well, stay tuned and we'll work on the next segment. Putting the shifter fork in and everything, and the alignment, timing, all that stuff. So that's a big section too, probably. So stay tuned.